When Donald Trump tweets about American foreign policy, this always seems to be the reaction from it. Yep, as his latest tweets about Volodymyr Zelensky in the 60-minute interview definitely are pretty eye-opening. All of this as there's new tensions between China and the United States as they just pulled off a pretty big move against us. All of this as we have a lot of people warning about Armageddon and actually preparing for it. Does that mean we should worry? Probably. As I specifically in this video wanted to focus on what's happening in Ukraine right now with a bigger global kind of perspective here, since I think it's absolutely imperative to do a deep dive on, especially after the war of words that happened between Zelensky and Donald Trump through, of course, the corporate media and Donald Trump responding on social media. All of this is happening as the Daily Mail just reported that, quote, Trump says he's preparing for war with China as he takes huge economic gamble, angering Xi Jinping, as China just officially banned the sale of certain rare earth minerals to the United States, which of course will greatly affect computing, electronics, and any kind of advanced building that doesn't include, of course, anything that doesn't have a chip or computer in it, which almost everything now does. China is also looking to team up with Vietnam, and they're trying to broaden their sphere of influence all over the world while trying to become the next global hegemonic power. All of this as other parts of the world are literally telling their citizens, hey, you need a survival kit here. Something that, of course, if you said a few years ago, like we did, you would be called a crazy conspiracist prepper. We saw the tea leaves, though. We actually saw these geopolitical conundrums building and growing and festering and getting worse and worse and worse. You could go back in our YouTube channel and you could see, oh, wow, they're actually calling out these tensions before they happen. Oh, wow, they're actually talking about how the United States is shooting itself in the foot here. Oh, wow, they're actually talking about how the U.S. is going to be at a huge disadvantage through these policies that are absolutely reckless and stupid that now we're having to deal with. As, again, other parts of the world, Germany, Poland, France, the UK, all of them telling their citizens, yeah, it might be, the UK is the most recent one, you might want to have, survival gear. You might want to have a first aid kit, your medications, flashlights, food, all of that, as we have Volodymyr Zelensky coming out in a very interesting propagandized CBS 60-minute news reports that, again, pulled out all the stops here when it came to evoking as much emotion as they could during this interview, where Zelensky said a lot of really interesting things, but more specifically, he said that the security of the world is at stake here as there is a war with Russia, and, quote, that the threat is very real. Now, there's a couple key moments here that I thought were very important here, specifically when Zelensky was describing how this is just important for the United States as it is everybody else. All of this is happening on the backdrop of a missile launch by the Russians in Sumy that took the lives of 34 people that CNN is using as a way to attack Donald Trump for. As they say, Trump calls Sumy missile strike a mistake, but Russian war seems to be raging exactly to Putin's plan. Is it exactly to Putin's plan here? As, of course, let's be real with ourselves. It was first kind of Ukraine that kind of stepped away here and said, I'm not doing this. And then Donald Trump was finally able to get him to the negotiation table. And then the Russians, as soon as he did that, they pulled out. So is that fair to characterize this as just a one person being, a one country, a one Vladimir Putin being responsible for all of this? No. As Donald Trump looks like he actually reached out to the Russians and got a response here to what was going on here. Now, again, these are major attacks, and you could expect these attacks to escalate here. You could also expect a major Russian offensive pretty soon, by the way. A lot of people are expecting it in the summer months, but it could even happen a lot sooner than that, as we are seeing some very significant troop movement, as the Russians are also dealing with a lot of big economic pressures as the price of oil is going down, and a lot of people are saying that their economy could soon be absolutely devastated. Zelenskyy, in this 60-minute interview, told Donald Trump, hey, Donald Trump, you need to come visit Ukraine here. And the two had some very interesting remarks to say about J.D. Vance, who, when Zelenskyy asked to visit Ukraine, told him that he's not going to go on his, quote, propaganda trip. And then, of course, they played this clip on 60 Minutes, and then Zelenskyy responded by attacking J.D. Vance here. That kind of mindset, by the way, isn't going to be conductive towards negotiations and a peace deal here. Let's just be real with ourselves. Whether he's right or wrong, coming into a deal and saying, no, it's all your fault. It's like, think of it as a divorce. Okay, that's not going to work here. That's not going to fly.
President Vance suggested that Putin could be trusted, and it was Zelenskyy who was creating a false narrative.
And look at the authoritative voice, like, oh, J.D. Vance, he said this bad thing, but Zelenskyy answered back. And, again, it's like low-level kind of propaganda. I'm going to play the full clip because I thought the attacks that they used against J.D. Vance, particularly now, they're like, hey, you're going to invest in us, you're going to pay for us, we're going to attack you as you do that. Okay, like, what are you thinking? What in the world's going on here? We'll talk about that in a second. I'll play you the full clip. Before we do that, we wanted to tell you about LukeUnfiltered.com. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you doing? We are doing some really cool videos behind the scenes here, and we're doing a range day, which is going to be happening in just a few weeks from now here in South Florida. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really awesome. I have a long day of work today, so I'm probably going to sneak in a meditation video so we could all like meditate and chill out and relax and try to take a deep breath and breather from all the craziness and stress in our society. So stay tuned for that. If you're a member, make sure to log in and you will be able to get that video and a lot more. 13 plus years of videos, all exclusively on LukeUnfiltered.com. Again, 20 cents a day. Click right here. Click in the description. Fill out your information and then just double check your spam box because Google sends our emails, all of them, to spam right now. I don't know why the hell they're doing that. If anyone could help us out, let us know and email us, info@wearechange.org if we're ever able to even get those emails. But anyway, let's continue on with this particular video as truly the war of words is pretty interesting here between Ukraine and the United States here as Donald Trump's clapback is and then he goes, I might play a little bit more of it here, but as Politico writes, Zelenskyy jabs J.D. Vance for justifying Russia's war on Ukraine here. And of course, again, Russia did invade Ukraine, yes. But let's not forget the retaliatory, the tit-for-tat kind of escalations that built up to all of this, going all the way back even before 2014 and the Maidan Revolution, where USAID and the CIA was literally involved there, fomenting and creating a situation that led to a revolution, that led to internal civil conflicts, that led to the official kind of bullets and bombs flying between the east and the west of Ukraine all the way back in 2014. So, again, long history, long trajectory, especially with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden going over, with Barack Obama going over to Ukraine and be like, yeah, they'll join NATO anytime, any moment now. And that, of course, spurred on Vladimir Putin to invade here. And there's a long kind of history here that Donald Trump always, talks about. As now, Trump is blaming Zelenskyy for the Ukraine war after the 60-minute interview, as he went on Truth Social and says, quote, I just finished watching 60 Minutes. The fake news show that was scandalously responsible for removing a terrible and incompetently delivered answer by failed president candidate Kamala Harris to an interview on 60 Minutes just prior to Election Day and putting in its place a completely different answer to a completely different question in order to make Kamala look coherent. Now tonight, with two separate but highly inaccurate stories about Trump, they are at it again. The people at CBS Fake News just don't get it. And I watched their segment specifically about Donald Trump, and again, it was just low-level, emotional manipulation at the highest kind of the degree of pettiness, the highest level of distortion that they could just try to extrapolate as much as they could, trying to make Donald Trump and the United States look bad here. And again, there's a lot that we could do, specifically when it comes to critiquing each other. But I think we're at a moment, we're at a precipice right now where we need to understand, like, this conflict is only expanding. It's only growing. There's other regional conflicts that, of course, will now involve other countries. And just like we saw in the early 1900s, countries are making alliances. They're growing stronger together. They're making sure that they have military and economic partnerships. They're making sure that they have each other's backs. And then what we have to understand here is already in Ukraine, Chinese mercenaries are fighting there. North Korean soldiers are fighting there. Mercenaries from Africa are fighting there as well. This is already an international geopolitical conflict. Now, if there's another one that unfolds right now in, like, Iran, it's another freaking disaster. Now, I understand you always want to get, like, Zelensky wants to only get his way here. But that's not how negotiations, that's not how peace deals works. That's not the reality of the world here. I want a lot of things. Doesn't mean I'm going to get them. And just because he says, no, we're the victims here, they're the aggressors, we want this, that's not how it works here when it comes to making a deal here. Donald Trump understands that, and Donald Trump now is, of course, hitting back against Zelensky. As, of course, we have this from the Hill here. President Trump on Monday sought to distance himself from the war between Russia and Ukraine, as he promised to end the conflict quickly, has proven difficult to accomplish. Yes, that's absolutely true here. And I would say originally that was because of Zelensky kind of destroying the deal here. Now the Russians have destroyed the deal here, and we're stuck in just a horrible situation as the United States still continues to provide military and intelligence support to the Ukrainians, by the way. Quote, the war between Russia and Ukraine is Biden's war, not mine. I just got here. And for 4 years during my term, had no problem in preventing it from happening. Trump posted on Truth Social, Russian President Vladimir Putin and everyone else respected your president. Trump also blamed President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for, quote, allowing the travesty to begin. There were so many ways to preventing it from ever starting, but this is the past. Now we have to get to stop and fast, Trump said, and I agree with him 110%. But clearly there are a lot of other things at play here now, specifically with China. Trump goes on. Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it, Trump told reporters. Everybody's to blame. Yeah, that's the fair kind of assessment here. But again, this is the plea here from Zelensky that's speaking to the American people, that's saying, no. We gotta be at war with Russia, because unless we defeat and destroy them, they're gonna destroy all of us. That's essentially what he. But Trump's giving military arms here, okay? Elon Musk, who has been dragged through the mud in all of this, is still providing Starlink, something that is a game-changing technological advancement that has helped the Ukrainians be able to defend their homeland so successfully against an overwhelmingly huge army. Okay, now let's take a look at this, because I disagree with that. Russia's facing some very severe economic consequences with the price of oil going down. Russia, and even according to Vladimir Putin's friends, like the president of Belarus, coming out and saying, yeah, he actually didn't want to do this. Like this, he saw it as a mistake. He wants to end it. Okay. Now, what Zelensky here is doing is he's setting it up in a way where we will never have a deal here. Now, if you're going to negotiations and you're trying to negotiate in good faith, but now you're coming with the preface, he's always going to lie. He's not going to tell. Okay, you're never going to have a deal then, if you think clearly someone is not telling the truth here, because what else do you expect to happen here? Do you expect a deal to be made here, or do you just want to grandstand and talk about how absolutely evil that other person is? Okay, there's no frickin' good guy during a war, during a conflict where so many people are frickin' dying. A second point that I think is worth pointing out here is specifically saying, oh, they sabotaged the deal. Well, no. Let's actually look at the. As I said in this video, it was Ukraine that sabotaged the deal first, and then the Russians kind of stepped away from the table afterwards, after the Ukrainians stepped away and then came back. I think that's a fair assessment to what happened here after documenting everything here for so freaking long. And when we look at everything that's happening here, we saw a preliminary kind of procedural ceasefire saying, okay, first we're going to stop attacking the infrastructure, then we're going to stop attacking in the Black Sea, and then we're going to stop using long-range missile systems, and then we're going to end, and then we're going to stop, and then we're going to relax. As soon as that was happened, the Russians came out, saying, okay, we're not going to attack your infrastructure. We had an attack plan on your infrastructure. We didn't attack it. They're still back and forth fighting. The Ukrainians specifically made sure to attack Russia's infrastructure, nuking and destroying and derailing the first aspect of that deal. And the Russians are like, they just attacked our energy infrastructure. They just attacked the one pipeline that goes into Europe. Okay, they just attack our refinery in our territory here. As soon as they got back U.S. intelligence, that allowed them to strike us inside of Russia. Okay, let's bomb again. And of course, the Ukrainians said that he did that because the Russians bombed a hospital. But again, that wasn't the first step of the deal. Infrastructure was. That was kaput, and that was destroyed here. And then, again, more tough talk between the two. Then the Ukrainians came back. Donald Trump was like, what the hell's going on here? And then the Ukrainians were like, okay, fine, we'll now negotiate in good faith. The Russians were like, okay, yeah, this is just not worth it for us, as of course we want to make sure that this isn't just a ceasefire in a way where these guys get to rearm and regroup and get to attack us once again, as of course they've been attacking inside of Russian territory. That is where we are at right now, as the Russians are having massive mobilizations, massive troop numbers, massive economic problems, and I would argue that if the Russians want to survive as an economically viable country, they need to end this war. And I think they understand that. I think the world understands that. Will it end? I don't know. But let's be honest here. Some of the words here by Zelenskyy aren't helping the situation, and they are preventing a deal to be made here. That's my own opinion. If you think I am wrong here, let me know why in the description below here. As of course, I want this war to end. As a Slavic person, I want this war to end. I want Slavic people to stop taking each other's lives. It makes no sense. It is stupid. It is ridiculous. And if you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. See you later on today on LukeUnfiltered.com. Stay tuned for more. All here exclusively on YouTube.com/WeAreChange. Subscribe. For some reason, we're like losing 2,000 subscribers. I don't know why. Subscribe.